Although protein is the building block of life, you probably don't eat enough. Why? Well, protein is not just protein. For example, 30 grams of protein from lentils is far different from 30 grams of protein from steak. Not only this, but the recommended daily allowance or RDA for protein is actually extremely flawed. In this video, we'll go over why the RDA is way too low, why the source of where you get your protein from is extremely important, as well as the steps you can take to ensure that you are getting the proper amount of protein to make fat loss, muscle building, and optimizing health as simple as possible.
The more healthy muscle mass you have, the research is clear, the greater your survivability against nearly every disease. That is very rare to be able to say in medicine. We also know that the primary ways to support muscle health are resistance exercise and dietary protein.
The reason that the guidelines actually underestimate the needs for optimal protein is that protein has two jobs in the body. It's used to build stuff, so things like muscles and bones require protein as a structural substrate. But it's also involved in things like enzymatic activities. So enzymes are little proteins that help chemical reactions along and do things in our body, and they're very important for our function. But in the original analysis, when they were trying to calculate exactly how much protein you need, they didn't actually consider the role of proteins as enzymes and all their myriad of important functions. They only looked at it as a building block for the tissues. And as a consequence, they severely underestimated the level of protein, which is consistent with good health.
Research from NHANES shows that about 40% of Americans aren't hitting the minimum daily protein requirements. But what's even more concerning is that this minimum daily protein requirement is not to optimize health, but to avoid deficiency. Meaning that even if a large portion of the population is hitting the minimum RDA, they are still doing so at the cost of their own health. This is because protein is not only essential for muscle repair and growth, but also for hormone production, enzymatic activity, and overall health maintenance like maintaining healthy skin, hair, nails, and the production of neurotransmitters. Now, it's also important to note that not all proteins are created equally. Proteins are made up of amino acids. 20 are required and 9 are essential, meaning that we must consume them within our diet to avoid deficiency. The quality of these proteins can be broken down by the amino acid profile by a particular food. While animal foods like steak and eggs provide these amino acids in the proper amounts, as well as the proper ratios, plant-based proteins, on the other hand, are often lacking many of these essential amino acids while also containing the improper ratios of them. The amino acid scale needs to be in balance, so even if you do consume all of the essential amino acids, the fact that you may be getting too much of one or not nearly enough of another can cause significant problems. This is where the digestible indispensable amino acid score or DIAS system comes into play. This system breaks down and evaluates protein quality based on two key factors: the amino acid composition and the digestibility of those amino acids. So when we compare animal and plant-based sources, we see a significant difference in their amino acid profiles and digestibility. When we look at animal proteins, we see that they contain all essential amino acids, as well as being in their proper ratios. They are also very bioavailable, meaning that our bodies can actually properly utilize these amino acids so that our bodies can easily use them, giving animal products a very high DIAS score. On the other hand, plants bring up three significant drawbacks. To start, most plants are very low in protein in the first place. The obvious problem here is that there just isn't enough to go around. But let's assume that you are selecting the highest protein plants like chickpeas and lentils. One of the main issues here is that they lack one or many of these essential amino acids, making them incomplete proteins. This imbalance means that your body will not get the necessary building blocks it needs from a single plant source. Now let's give all these vegans the benefit of the doubt here, and let's say that you start playing amino acid roulette. Let's say you eat a wide variety of plants so that if one is low in a certain amino acid, you can aim to eat a different plant high in that amino acid. Even if you do get all of these amino acids, your body still needs to be able to digest them. But of course, our bodies aren't very good at digesting plants, meaning these proteins have a very low bioavailability, giving plants a low DIAS score. One of the main reasons why our bodies aren't great at digesting these plant proteins is because of anti-nutrients. These are toxic compounds that plants make to prevent animals from eating them to be able to survive so that they can spread their seed and reproduce. And the kicker here is that not only can these anti-nutrients hinder the absorption from the proteins from the plants themselves, but also the other foods that you eat with the plants. And it's not just the proteins, but also many of the other vitamins and minerals contained within the foods. So you are far better off eating that steak by itself or with another side of an animal-based product, rather than with a side salad that can strip the beneficial nutrients contained within the meat. Have you also noticed that eating a nice steak feels far more satiating than eating a bowl of lentils or salad, for example? This has a lot to do with the protein leverage hypothesis. This is essentially how your body regulates its hunger signaling hormones to regulate how much food you are eating. Our bodies are extremely intuitive, especially when we are eating the proper foods. After all, we've been in our current speciation for hundreds of thousands of years, and we would not be able to rely on a dietitian to tell us what to eat, although you may still not want to in modern times. To illustrate this, consider a study conducted in the 1920s, where newly weaned infants were allowed to choose their own diets from a variety of foods including meats, milk, eggs, fruits, vegetables, juice, and cereals. These infants ate in varied patterns, sometimes consuming very large amounts of beef or eggs. This behavior demonstrates our innate ability to eat foods that provide a nutritionally complete diet. The study found that these new infants grew to be very healthy, and those who entered the study with deficiencies, such as rickets, had improved health outcomes by the end. The study supports the idea that our bodies can crave foods that provide the nutrients we need most. The protein leverage hypothesis builds on this by suggesting that because the body knows it requires a significant amount of protein, it will compel us to keep eating to get more protein. For example, after eating a 400-gram ribeye steak, which provides about 96 grams of protein, you might feel very full and satisfied. In contrast, consuming 2 Big Macs, which together provide 52 grams of protein and the same number of calories as the ribeye, might leave you craving more food shortly afterward. So now you might be thinking, okay, so I just need to eat higher quality protein. But exactly how much do I need?
The data would support that nearly double that is what is more optimal. In human randomized control trials, we know that optimizing for protein, those people always do better.
The current RDA for protein is set at 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. This means that a person weighing 70 kilograms, about 154 pounds, would need around 56 grams of protein per day according to the RDA. But let's remember that this is the minimum amount needed to avoid deficiencies, not to optimize health. An ideal range of protein for most individuals, based on the majority of the research, is closer to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And if you're an athlete, slightly more may be even more beneficial. The RDA was set to prevent muscle loss, not to support muscle growth and repair. If you're an athlete, bodybuilder, or just someone who works out regularly, your protein needs are much higher. You need that extra protein to repair muscle tissue and promote hypertrophy. But protein's role goes far beyond just muscles. It's the building block for many hormones like insulin, which regulates blood sugar, and growth hormone, essential for growth and cell repair. Enzymes, which are also proteins, kick off vital biochemical reactions for digestion, energy production, and other metabolic processes. Protein is crucial for your immune system too. It helps produce antibodies and other components that fight off illnesses. Amino acids from proteins are the precursors for neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, which are essential for mood and brain function. And let's not forget about your skin, hair, and nails. Proteins like collagen and keratin keep them healthy and strong. Proteins also play a very important role in maintaining strong bones, working with calcium and vitamin D to boost bone density and reduce the risk of osteoporosis. Now you might be thinking, okay, so I just need more protein, but can't we get too much protein? Many people think that too much protein can cause harm to the kidneys or liver, as both are involved in the breakdown of protein. This misconception stems from studies that show that people with kidney disease or liver damage have a difficult time breaking down protein. What a lot of people got from this is that protein causes kidney disease. But this is just backwards. It's like saying that since people with lung disease have difficulty breathing, that breathing causes lung disease. In reality, healthy kidneys and livers can handle higher protein intakes without any issues. It's the pre-existing conditions that make protein metabolism challenging for those individuals, not the other way around.
And not only that, but protein is essential. And there's never any evidence, there has not been, to my knowledge, nor in the literature, to support higher levels of dietary protein having any kind of negative effect. Ever.
So now you might be thinking, great, so I just need to eat more animal products for my protein intake. But what about all that saturated fat and cholesterol? Won't that clog my arteries? That's why you should check out this video right here to learn more about how cholesterol and saturated fat from meat affect our health.